Commander Oz stood at the great window of his warship and looked at the stars. He had seen many worlds from this window. He had watched planets burn. He had watched species kneel before him and beg for mercy. The Dominion had conquered over 200 worlds, and Oz had led the invasion of 40 of them himself. He was old now by standards. His gray skin had grown darker with age. His 4 eyes did not see as sharply as they once did. But his mind was still sharp and his heart was still hungry for victory. Today, he looked at a small blue planet that hung in the blackness of space like a jewel. The humans called it Earth. "Tell me again," he said to his advisor Aura. "Tell me about these creatures." Aura pulled up the data on her screen. She was younger than Oz, with smooth gray skin and quick movements. She had studied humans for 3 years, ever since the long-range probes first detected their radio signals. "They are soft creatures," she said. "They have no natural armor, no claws, no venom. They cannot survive in extreme heat or cold without artificial help. Their bodies break easily. And their technology. Primitive, they have nuclear weapons, but they are weak compared to ours. They have no energy shields, no faster-than-light travel. They do not even know we exist." Oz made a sound of satisfaction. This would be an easy conquest. The humans would join the hundreds of other species that served the Dominion. But something bothered him. It was a small thing, a detail that his officers thought was not important. But Oz had not survived 40 invasions by ignoring small things. "Why is this sector empty?" he asked. Aura hesitated. She knew what he meant. The space around the human star system was strangely quiet. In every direction there were signs of old civilizations. Abandoned space stations floated in the darkness. Dead ships drifted without power. On nearby moons there were ruins of cities that had been empty for thousands of years. But no living species remained near Earth, not one. "We do not know," Aura admitted. "The Galactic Council has marked this sector as forbidden. They call it a quarantine zone, but they will not say why." "Have you asked them?" "Yes, they simply say that this region should be avoided. They say it is not safe." Oz laughed. It was a harsh sound, like rocks grinding together. "Not safe? We are the Dominion. We have destroyed species that could crack planets. We have burned civilizations that lived for 1,000,000 years. What could possibly threaten us in this backwater system?" Aura did not answer. She did not know. "It is superstition," Oz decided. "The Council has grown old and afraid. They see danger where there is none. We will take this world and we will show them that their fears are foolish." He turned to face his bridge crew. There were 50 officers working at their stations. They were the best soldiers in the Dominion, trained from birth for war. Behind this ship, 11 more dreadnoughts waited in formation. Each one carried enough firepower to destroy a continent. "Begin the approach," Oz ordered. "We will enter orbit within 6 hours. Prepare the landing forces." The fleet moved forward as one. The great engines hummed with power. The weapons systems activated. In the cargo holds, thousands of soldiers checked their armor and their guns. They had done this many times before. They knew exactly how it would go. First, they would destroy any satellites or space stations. Then they would position themselves above the major cities. They would broadcast a demand for surrender. Most species surrendered at this point because they understood they could not win. If the humans did not surrender, they would begin bombing key locations. Power plants, military bases, communication centers. This usually convinced the remaining leaders to give up. And if that did not work, they would simply keep bombing until there was no one left to resist. Simple, clean, effective. As the fleet approached Earth, Aura continued to study her data. She read reports from the probes that had been watching humans for years. She saw footage of human wars. She saw images of human cities. She listened to human music and human speeches. The more she studied, the more she felt a strange unease. The humans were clearly primitive. They fought wars against each other using simple explosive weapons. They killed each other over land, over resources, over ideas. They were divided into hundreds of different nations that could not agree on anything. But there was something else in the data, something she could not quite understand. She watched footage of a human battle from what they called World War II. She saw human soldiers running into enemy fire. They knew they would die. They ran anyway. She saw them drag their wounded friends to safety while bullets flew around them. She saw them keep fighting even when they were bleeding, even when they were alone, even when there was no hope. She watched footage of human disasters, great waves that destroyed cities, fires that burned for weeks, diseases that killed millions, and after each disaster the humans rebuilt. They came back. They started again. She read human stories, stories of humans who had survived impossible things, humans who had been lost in frozen wastelands and walked for weeks to find safety, humans who had been trapped in collapsed buildings and dug themselves out with broken fingers, humans who had been told they would die and simply refused. Aura had studied many species. She had never seen anything quite like this. "Commander," she said quietly, "may I speak freely?" Oz turned to her. "You may. I have concerns about this invasion." "What concerns?" Aura struggled to find the right words. "The humans are weak. Their technology is primitive. Everything in the data tells me we will win easily. But what? I do not think they will surrender. I do not think they will accept defeat. I think they will fight us even when fighting is pointless. And I do not know what happens when we face an enemy who refuses to stop." Oz smiled. His sharp teeth gleamed in the light of the bridge. "Then we will kill them until there are none left. It is simple." He turned back to the window. Earth was growing larger now. He could see the shapes of continents through the white clouds. "Prepare the broadcast," he said. "Let us introduce ourselves to the humans." The fleet entered orbit. 12 massive warships hung above the blue planet like dark clouds. On the surface below, humans looked up at the sky and saw nothing. They did not know what was coming. They would learn soon enough. The broadcast went out to every radio and television on Earth at exactly noon, Greenwich time. Every screen flickered, every speaker crackled, and then Commander Oss appeared, his gray face filling billions of screens around the world. He spoke in a language that no human had ever heard, but somehow everyone understood. They had technology that could put meaning directly into the minds of listeners. "People of Earth," Oss said, "I am Commander Oss of the Dominion. Your planet is now under our control. Your weapons cannot harm us. Your defenses are meaningless. You will surrender immediately or you will be destroyed. You have 1 hour to respond." The broadcast ended. For 30 seconds, the entire planet was silent. And then the humans responded. They did not respond with surrender. They did not respond with negotiation. They responded the only way humans know how to respond when someone threatens their home. Every military on Earth activated at once. Soldiers ran to their posts. Pilots climbed into their jets. Navy ships turned toward the coast. Nuclear submarines rose from the deep ocean and waited for orders. In the United Nations building, leaders from every nation gathered for an emergency meeting. They had been arguing about trade agreements that morning. They had been fighting about borders and resources and old grudges. But now, none of that mattered. An enemy had come, an enemy that threatened all of them. Within 45 minutes, something happened that had never happened before in human history. Every nation on Earth agreed to work together. Old enemies shook hands. Rivals shared intelligence. Countries that had been preparing to fight each other redirected their armies toward a common cause. The humans did not surrender. When the hour ended, Oss received his answer. It came from a woman named General Sarah, who had been chosen to speak for all of Earth's combined forces. "This is General," she said. Her voice was calm and steady. "We have received your message. We understand that you are more advanced than us. We understand that you have weapons we cannot match, but we will not surrender. This is our home. If you want it, you will have to take it from us, and we will make you pay for every inch." Oss was amused. He had heard similar speeches before. Brave words from brave leaders who did not yet understand how hopeless their situation was. "Very well," he said. "Begin the invasion." The dropships fell from the sky like metal rain. They landed on every continent. Thousands of soldiers poured out, their armor gleaming, their weapons humming with energy. They were tall and strong, with 4 arms and skin like stone. They had conquered worlds where the gravity was 10 times stronger than Earth. They had fought in poison atmospheres and on frozen moons. They were the most feared soldiers in the galaxy. The first battle happened in a small town in Kansas, in the middle of America. A battalion of 300 soldiers encountered a group of American National Guard troops. There were only 50 humans, with rifles and a few armored vehicles. The commander expected them to run or surrender. They did neither. The humans opened fire immediately. Their bullets bounced off the armor like raindrops. They did no damage at all, but the humans kept shooting. They moved from cover to cover, working together, trying to find weak points in the alien armor. When their ammunition ran out, they did not stop. One soldier charged a warrior with a knife. He died instantly, cut down by an energy blast, but his attack distracted the alien long enough for another human to grab a dropped weapon and figure out how to fire it. The battle lasted 20 minutes. All 50 humans died, but they took 11 soldiers with them. 11? That was more than they had lost in their last 3 invasions combined. Reports flooded into Oz from across the planet. The pattern was the same everywhere. In China, a human pilot flew his damaged jet directly into a drop ship. He died, but he took 200 aliens with him. In Russia, civilians attacked a patrol with farming tools and hunting rifles. They knew they could not win. They attacked anyway. In Brazil, a group of children threw rocks at a scout. When soldiers came to chase them away, the children led them into a trap where older fighters were waiting. In Egypt, an old man drove a truck filled with explosives into a command post. He smiled as he pressed the trigger. Aura watched the reports with growing horror. She had studied humans. She had thought she understood them, but she had never seen anything like this. "They will not stop," she told us. "We kill them and more come. We destroy one group and another appears. They are not fighting to win. They are fighting because they refuse to lose." "That is foolish," Ah said. "A soldier who cannot win should retreat and save his strength for a better battle." "They do not think that way. They do not calculate odds like we do. They fight because their home is threatened. They fight because their families are in danger. They fight because something inside them will not allow them to stop." Os frowned. This was not how invasions were supposed to go. By now, the human leaders should be begging for peace. They should be offering resources and slaves in exchange for survival. That was what every other species had done. But the humans were different. Reports came in of human prisoners who refused to give information even under torture. They died with curses on their lips, spitting blood at their captors. Reports came in of human civilians who hid equipment in their homes, studying it, learning its secrets. Reports came in of human scientists who had already begun analyzing captured weapons, looking for weaknesses. And strangest of all, reports came in of humans helping each other in ways that made no sense. A human doctor in Germany was found treating wounded soldiers from nations that had been his country's enemies for centuries. When asked why, he said only, "They are human. That is enough." In Japan, a soldier was captured during a failed attack. He was wounded and expected to be executed. Instead, a human woman bandaged his wounds and gave him water. She did not speak his language. He did not understand why she was helping him. When other humans wanted to kill him, she stood in front of him and refused to move. The soldier was eventually rescued by his own forces, but he never forgot that woman. He never understood her. Neither did Os. "What kind of species is this?" he asked Aura. "They are brutal and gentle at the same time. They kill without mercy and then they show kindness to their enemies. They make no sense." Aura had been thinking about this for days. She finally had an answer. "They are not logical," she said. "They do not make decisions based on probability or advantage. They make decisions based on something else. Something inside them. They call it many things: honor, love, duty, pride. It is not rational, but it is very, very powerful." She paused. "I think we have made a terrible mistake, Commander. I think we have awakened something we do not understand." Os said nothing. He looked out the window at the blue planet below. Fires were burning on the surface. Cities were in ruins. Millions of humans had died. But they were still fighting. And they showed no signs of stopping. 6 weeks had passed since the invasion began. Os had expected to be done in 6 days. They controlled the skies completely. No human aircraft could fly without being shot down. The great cities had been bombed into rubble. Human governments had been scattered, their leaders hiding in bunkers and caves. By every measure, they were winning. But they were not winning. Every morning, Os received reports of attacks that had happened during the night. Patrols ambushed in the darkness. Supply convoys destroyed on empty roads. Weapons stolen from guarded warehouses. Soldiers killed in their sleep by enemies who disappeared like ghosts. The humans had learned to fear the ships, so they moved at night. They had learned that armor was weak at the joints, so they aimed for the joints. They had learned that soldiers needed to eat special food that did not grow on Earth, so they poisoned the food supplies. They learned quickly, too quickly. Aura brought us a report that made his blood run cold. They have built working energy weapons, she said. Crude copies of our rifles, they do not work well. They explode half the time, but they are learning. How is this possible? It took our scientists 300 years to develop that technology. Human scientists work differently than ours. They do not wait for perfect understanding. They experiment, they fail, they try again, they are not afraid of mistakes. She showed him footage from a captured human laboratory. A man in a white coat was testing a captured weapon. It exploded in his hands, burning him badly. Other humans rushed to help him. While they were bandaging his wounds, he was already giving instructions for the next test. Increase the power flow by 12%, he said through clenched teeth, and reinforce the barrel casing. 2 days later, his team had a working weapon. Oz ordered the laboratory destroyed from orbit. But there were other laboratories, dozens of them, hundreds, in basements and factories and universities. Humans everywhere were studying captured technology, pulling it apart, learning its secrets. But the technology was not what truly disturbed Oz. It was the humans themselves. He had ordered his soldiers to show no mercy. He had thought that cruelty would break the human spirit. He had thought that if he killed enough of them, the rest would surrender. He was wrong. In a town called, soldiers executed 50 human prisoners in the town square. They made the other townspeople watch, hopping to terrify them into obedience. That night every soldier in was dead. The townspeople had killed them with kitchen knives and garden tools and their bare hands. They had lost 200 people in the attack. They did not care. In a city called Mumbai, commanders gathered all the food in the region and locked it away. They told the humans that only those who served the Dominion would eat. The humans shared what little they had. They ate grass and insects and boiled leather. They grew thin and weak, but they did not serve. And then, when they thought they were too weak to fight, they attacked the food storage building. Thousands of starving humans rushed the guards, climbing over the bodies of their fallen friends, refusing to stop until the doors were open. They won. Oz tried a different approach. He found humans who were willing to work with the invaders. Every species had traitors, people who would serve the conquerors in exchange for power or safety. He gave these traitors weapons and authority. He told them to control their own people. It did not work. The human traitors were found dead within days. Their own families had killed them. Their own friends had turned against them. The humans had a word for people who betrayed their species. They called them something that could not be translated into the language, but it meant something like worse than enemy. Oz began to hate the humans. He had never hated a species before. He had conquered many worlds, and he had felt nothing for the creatures he defeated. They were simply obstacles to be removed. But the humans were different. They made him angry. They made him afraid. He called a meeting of his senior officers. "We must increase our forces," he said. "Send a message to the Dominion. Tell them we need more ships, more soldiers, more weapons." General, one of his oldest officers, spoke up. "Commander, with respect, we have already lost more soldiers in this invasion than in our last 10 conquests combined. The Dominion may ask questions. Then we will answer them. We will explain that this species is more difficult than expected. They may see it as failure." Oz slammed his fist on the table. "It is not failure. We are winning. The humans cannot defeat us. They do not have the power." "They do not need to defeat us," Aura said quietly. "They only need to keep fighting. They only need to make the cost of victory too high." The room fell silent. She was right, and everyone knew it. They were winning every battle. They were killing humans by the millions, but the humans kept coming. For every fighter who fell, 2 more appeared. Grandmothers picked up guns. Children became spies. Wounded soldiers crawled back to the front lines before their wounds had healed. And the strange thing, the thing that made no sense, was that they were not fighting only with hatred. An officer named had been captured during a failed assault. He was badly wounded, one arm nearly torn off. He expected the humans to torture him for information and then kill him. Instead, they took him to a human hospital. A human surgeon spent 6 hours saving his arm. Human nurses brought him food and water. They were gentle. They were kind. When asked why they were helping him, a human soldier shrugged and said, "Because you needed help." But I am your enemy. Yes, but you are also hurt. We are not monsters. Did not understand. He could not understand. In the Dominion, wounded enemies were left to die. Resources were not wasted on those who had no value. But the humans thought differently. They could kill with savage fury and then show mercy to the same enemy moments later. They could hate and love at the same time. They could be brutal and compassionate in the same breath. They were impossible to predict. After weeks of captivity, was rescued by forces. He returned to his ship and wrote a report about his experience. The report was classified immediately because it contained a conclusion that no one wanted to hear. The humans are not weak, he wrote. They are the strongest species we have ever encountered. Their strength is not in their bodies or their weapons. Their strength is in their spirit. They have something inside them that we do not have. I do not know what to call it, but I know that we cannot break it. I do not think anyone can. Os read the report and deleted it. But he could not delete the truth. The invasion was failing, and he did not know how to stop it. 3 months into the invasion, Os finally received a response from the Galactic Council. He had sent many messages asking for information about the Sol system. He wanted to know why this region had been quarantined. He wanted to know why no other species lived near Earth. He wanted to understand what he was fighting. The Council had ignored his messages for weeks, but now, finally, an ancient ambassador agreed to speak with him. Her name was, and she was older than most star systems. Her body was made of living crystal that glowed with soft blue light. She had been a member of the Council for 10,000 years. She had seen empires rise and fall. She had watched species evolve and go extinct. She looked at Os with something that might have been pity. "You have made a terrible mistake, Commander," she said. Her voice was like wind chimes in a storm. "And now you want to know why." "I want information," Os said, "nothing more." "Very well, I will tell you the history that your Dominion has forgotten, or perhaps never learned." She waved a crystalline hand and images appeared in the air between them. Stars, galaxies, the slow dance of cosmic time. Long ago, before your species learned to walk, the Council discovered Earth. We watched the creatures that lived there. They were primitive then. They had just learned to use fire. They killed animals with sharp rocks. They lived in caves and feared the dark. The images showed early humans, small and fragile, huddled around flames in a cold world. We were curious. We had seen many species develop intelligence. Most of them followed predictable patterns. They became peaceful as they grew smarter. They learned cooperation. They stopped fighting each other. This is the natural way of things. Paused. But the humans did not follow this pattern. The images changed. They showed human history in rapid sequence. Wars and more wars, empires rising and falling, weapons growing more deadly, cities burning, bodies piling up. They fought constantly. They killed each other in numbers we had never seen. They invented new ways to cause death. When they ran out of enemies, they created new ones. They divided themselves by the color of their skin, by the gods by invisible lines drawn on maps. Os nodded. He had seen these records. He knew humans were violent. "We assumed they would destroy themselves," continued. "Every model predicted it. A species this aggressive, this self-destructive, could not survive. We expected them to be gone within a few thousand years. But they did not destroy themselves." "No, they did not." The images showed something else now. Humans rebuilding after disasters. Humans helping each other after wars. Humans surviving plagues and famines and floods. Again and again they fell, and again they got back up. They developed weapons that could end all life on their planet. We were certain they would use them. They came close many times, but they always stopped. Something held them back, something we did not understand. What was it? Crystals flickered. We still do not know. They call it many things: hope, love, the desire to see their children grow up, the belief that tomorrow might be better than today. It is not rational, it makes no logical sense, but it is very powerful. She leaned forward, and her ancient eyes seemed to look right through Os. "Do you understand what this means, Commander? The humans survived themselves. They survived the worst enemy they could possibly face, their own nature. They looked into the darkness of extinction and refused to fall." Os felt cold. "Any species that can survive itself," said slowly, "can survive anything." The images changed again. They showed other alien invasions that Oz had never heard of. "You are not the first to try," the ambassador said. 12,000 years ago, the collective sent a fleet to Earth. They were stronger than you. They had weapons that could crack continents. They thought the humans would be easy prey. The images showed massive alien ships descending on a primitive Earth. Bronze Age humans looking up in terror. The humans had no technology. They had bronze swords and wooden shields. They should have been enslaved in days. What happened? They fought, they died, they kept fighting, the destroyed city after city. The humans rebuilt them, the killed their leaders. New leaders appeared, the burned their crops. The humans learned to eat other things. His voice grew quiet. After 60 years, they gave up. Not because they were defeated, because they were exhausted. Because every victory cost them more than it was worth. Because the humans never, ever stopped. She showed more images, more invasions, more failures. The Empire tried 8,000 years ago. They lasted 30 years. The Dominion of Night tried 5,000 years ago. They lasted 12 years. The Machine Consensus tried 2,000 years ago. They lasted 3 years. 3 years against machines. The humans learned to disable them. They studied the machines and found their weaknesses. They adapted faster than the machines could evolve. In the end, the consensus decided that Earth was not worth the resources. Waved her hand, and the images disappeared. Every species that attacked Earth came to the same conclusion. The humans could not be conquered, not because they were strong, not because they had better weapons, but because they refused to accept defeat. They would rather die fighting than live as slaves, and there are always more of them. They breed quickly. They recover from losses that would destroy other species. They are like water, soft and yielding but impossible to hold. Oz's mind was racing. Why did no one tell us this? Why is there no record? Because it is embarrassing, said simply. The great empires of the galaxy defeated by primitive apes with stone tools. This is not a story anyone wants to tell, so the records were hidden. The sector was quarantined, and everyone agreed to simply leave the humans alone. Until we came. Until you came, you saw a weak species and thought you could take what you wanted. You did not ask why this weak species had been left alone for so long. She looked at Oz with ancient, tired eyes. And now you have united them. They were divided before. They fought among themselves. But you gave them something they have not had in generations, a common enemy. You have taken a fractured species and made them whole. You have forged them into something stronger than they have ever been. Began to fade, her transmission ending. Leave now, Commander, while you still can. The humans are no longer primitive. They learn fast. They adapt fast. They have already begun copying your technology. In a year, they will have ships. In 10 years, they will have a fleet, and they will remember what you did to their world. The transmission ended. Oz stood alone in the darkness, her final words echoing in his mind. They will remember. They always remember. The order to retreat came from the Dominion High Council itself. It arrived on a cold morning 4 months after the invasion began. Oz read it 3 times before he believed it was real. All forces are to withdraw from the Sol system immediately. This operation is terminated. Return to Dominion space. This is not a suggestion. This is a command. No fleet had ever retreated from a conquest. Not in 4,000 years of expansion. Not once. Until now. Oz stood on the bridge of his flagship and watched Earth turn slowly below him. The planet was. Great patches of black and brown marked where cities had been destroyed. Smoke still rose from burning forests. The humans had lost hundreds of millions of their people. But they had not lost their spirit. Even now, even as the ships prepared to leave, human attacks continued. A group of fighters had stolen a shuttle and crashed it into a supply depot. Human soldiers were still ambushing patrols in the ruins of 1,000 cities. Scientists were still working in hidden laboratories, building better weapons, learning more secrets. General Aura entered the bridge. She looked exhausted. They all looked exhausted. The withdrawal is ready, Commander. All ground forces have returned to the ships. We lost 400 more soldiers during the evacuation. How? Attacks during transport. The humans knew we were leaving. They wanted to hurt us one more time before we went. Oz closed his eyes. 400 more, added to the thousands who had already died, added to the ships that had been damaged, the equipment that had been destroyed, the resources that had been wasted. They had not been defeated in battle. Their technology was still superior. Their soldiers were still stronger. If they had been willing to pay the price, they could have killed every human on the planet. But the price was too high. The Dominion needed its ships and soldiers for other purposes. The war with the Confederation in the outer systems was not going well. Resources were limited, and the humans, the impossible humans, showed no signs of ever giving up. It would take decades to finish them, maybe centuries, and during all that time the humans would be learning, growing stronger, building their own weapons. The math did not work. The victory was not worth the cost. "Begin the jump sequence," Oz ordered. His voice was flat, empty. "Take us home." The great engines powered up. The ships began to move away from Earth, preparing to enter hyperspace. The blue planet grew smaller And then a transmission came through. It was on all frequencies, broadcast from somewhere on the planet's surface. A human voice, speaking in heavily accented but understandable language. "Attention, invaders. This is General of the United Earth Defense Force. We see you running. We want you to know something before you go." Oz should have ignored it. He should have continued the withdrawal without responding, but something made him listen. "We know who you are now," General said. "We know where you came from. We have studied your language. We have studied your technology. We have studied your star maps." Her voice was calm, almost pleasant. That made it worse. "We know that you have conquered 200 worlds. We know that you have enslaved countless species. We know that you think you are the masters of this region of space." A pause. "You are not." Oz felt a chill run down his spine. "We did not ask for this war. We were happy on our little planet, fighting among ourselves, making our small progress. We did not know you existed. We were not a threat to anyone." Her voice hardened. "But you came to our home. You killed our children. You burned our cities. You tried to make us kneel." Another pause, longer this time. "We do not kneel." The transmission continued as the fleet moved farther from Earth. "Go home to your Dominion. Tell them what happened here. Tell them about the species that would not surrender. Tell them about the planet you could not conquer. Tell them about the price you paid for your arrogance." Oz wanted to turn off the transmission. He could not make himself give the order. "And tell them this: we remember. Humans always remember. We remember every insult, every injury, every death. We write it down. We teach it to our children. We carry our grudges for generations." General's voice became very quiet, very calm, very dangerous. "You came to our world uninvited. You killed our people without mercy. You thought we were weak because we had not yet reached the stars. We will reach them now. We will find you. And we will remember everything." The transmission ended. The bridge was silent. Every officer stood frozen, staring at where Earth was now just a small blue dot among the stars. Aura spoke first. "Should we respond, Commander?" "No," Oz said. "There is nothing to say." He turned away from He could not look at Earth anymore. He could not look at the planet that had humiliated the greatest military force in the galaxy. "Complete the jump. Get us out of this system." The fleet entered hyperspace. The stars stretched and blurred. Earth disappeared, left behind in normal space. But it was not forgotten. In the great archives of the Galactic Council, a new entry was added to humanity's file. It was written by herself, the ancient ambassador who had watched civilizations rise and fall for 10,000 years. The entry was simple. Status: do not engage. Classification: apex persistence predator. Note: they do not forgive, they do not forget, they do not stop. Previous quarantine should have been maintained. Recommend no further contact until humanity chooses to initiate it. Additional note: they are now aware of the wider galaxy. They are building ships. They will come eventually. It is advised that all species prepare gifts rather than weapons. The humans respond better to friendship than force. Those who treated them with cruelty will be remembered. Those who show them kindness may be spared. The file was marked with the highest security clearance. It was shared with every member species of the Council. It was taken very, very seriously. On Earth, the humans began to rebuild. They buried their dead. They healed their wounded. They repaired their cities. And in laboratories and factories around the world, scientists and engineers worked day and night on new projects. Ships, weapons, engines that could cross the stars. General stood at a window in a rebuilt command center, looking up at the night sky. Somewhere out there, among those distant points of light, they were running home. They thought they had escaped. They were wrong. How long? Asked her aide, a young officer who had survived 3 major battles. How long until what? Until we go after them. Smiled, it was not a warm smile. Not long, she said. Humans are patient, but we are also determined. They taught us that the universe is dangerous. They taught us that we are not alone. They taught us that we need to be strong. She turned away from the window. We learned our lesson. Now it is time to teach them theirs. Somewhere in the vastness of space, the fleet raced toward home, carrying news of their failure. They did not know that they had started something that would change the galaxy forever. They had come to conquer Earth. They had discovered why humans were left alone. And soon, very soon, the rest of the galaxy would learn that lesson too. The humans were coming. And they remembered everything.